One sec.
Alright.
Right. Hello everyone. Just needing to do a quick radio check. Radio check, radio check.
Hello.
Yep, we're good. Both are good. Okay. Now, that goes down to that. Bang. Switch you around. Right, so now we have Twitch chat good to go. Goya for the 6th month. Thank you for subscribing for another month of House of Racing. You are a bit weird, but you know what? You do your thing. Spending, what is it, 11 Australian dollars? You have wasted your money. But hey, good either way. Boys, start your engines. That is indeed how is it going. Either way, it is me, Helix, JPM13, Jamie, however you may call me, as your main commentator, joined by CoCom's K1.
Hello, guys.
And we're here for F2 round 3 here in Austria for what is what is the Red Bull Ring. So slowly but surely getting into it. 17 minutes on the clock for these drivers to set down a lap time and get us into it. But firstly, we have got to get some stuff on the board for you lovely people. Alright, we already have some drivers coming out of the pit lane. A Ferrari going extremely slowly, but finally getting a move on. Okay, so Drillabons, Dar Wizzy, Nano, Sam Ross, Sammy Renz, Wizzy Boy, Gugabara, and Chesney in the Aston Martin, plus many more, slowly but surely coming out of the pit lane. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, it is round 3. Here for F2, here for the Austrian Grand Prix, it is qualifying, and with already 2 minutes down on the clock, you have drivers well and truly coming out of the pit lane from multiple teams, from multiple constructors, from multiple drivers and driver numbers. It's time to go, ladies and gentlemen, and we are already underway, getting ready to go. I can't really hear yeah, I understand why, hold up.
Your Wizzy boy was ahead of their Wizzy, about to start his lap. Heading into turn 1, difficult corner to get right, but a bit of a lag. Thought he could go straight on, but nope. He goes on into turn 2, apparently, technically a turn 2, which is a straight. And into turn 3, gets a good apex out of that corner, opens up the DRS. He's still looking good. On approaching turn 4, he gets nice and easy, he gets a good exit speed around that corner, and now he's approaching at the end of sector 2. As you see, Sammy Renz has retired. And Wizzy Boy is approaching a final corner to set a benchmark. Almost goes off the track, but he opens up the DRS. And where's the benchmark going to be? It's 1 minute 3.985.
Not bad from Wizzy Boy. So, with Driller Bonds also currently on a fast lap across the line, he sets a 104.813 and nearly a second off Wizzy Boy in the Alpine. The Aston Martin of Chesney can only manage a 104.604, so he's actually 8/10 off the Alpine again. Wizzy Boy setting down some very decent qualifying laps. We've seen it before and we're seeing it again. If you looked through Imola, you would have seen, I mean, what was pretty much 2, 3, 4 tenths ahead of the rest of the field by the end of qualifying. Wizzy Boy has some extraordinary qualifying pace in the back of his pocket. Wave Dre with a 104.525. I am surprised by how he even managed to get into the 103 so quickly, a 103.985. I'm pretty sure, just like how he did in Imola, he could most likely retire for the rest of the session and still come out on pole. Either way, looks like Darwizzy in the Haas has invalidated. Sam Ross is 1 lap down on degradation on his lap, meaning he has invalidated on his first run out. Slippy currently in the second sector, the McLaren just heading downhill in de-elevation, just looking to try and get the maximum out of it. 45.786 coming across the second sector, now continuing over the next couple of curbs. Now it's pedal to metal, full throttle. He's also getting a big slipstream from the driver behind, but has to back out of it so the McLaren can continue. And unfortunately, going into the final corner, just goes over the white line on that just little bit of corner exit, and it just sees him unfortunately need to invalidate and also set no time on the board. Continuing back down, however, it looks like Darwizzy has now invalidated 2 times in a row, which means he's now on to his 3rd run. He's gone purple in the first, but most likely a personal instead of an actual lap time. Wizzy Boy says Jamie with the Giat. What the hell are you on about, Wizzy Boy? I ain't got no Giat, man. If anyone's got the Giat, you got the Giat, man.
I don't know what you meant by that.
Yeah, we all know what we meant by that. Anyway, Sector 2, currently in the 40s. The Alpine of Matty Rambo, 45.398. He'll be looking for an opportunity. Anyone you're currently on board with, K1?
I'm also watching Matthew Rambo, who has set it past Sector 1, but didn't set Sector 2 purple. But let's see, he missed a bit of apex. That could cost a bit of a time, and where's it gonna be for Matthew Rambo? It's only P9 of 1 minute 5.2.
Yeah, very unfortunate from the Alpine of Matty Rambo. Obviously, like you said, just went wide on the final corner on the exit there, just couldn't put it all together, couldn't link it up, and fortunately saw himself losing a significant amount of time. So a 105.261 is all the Alpine can unfortunately produce for the time being. Let's go down to pretty much no one at the moment, because everyone's rather on used tyres or in the pit lane or on an out lap on new tyres. So we'll have to wait a little bit until these new compounds eventually do get going on a new fast lap, and yeah, then we get going on that side of things. But for now, nice and slow, and it's a bit more of a waiting process in this little gap of time that we have before laps eventually get going again. Nano on the new soft compounds. You also have Driller Bonds, PGS Cyril. You also have Wizzy Boy, who's now come out onto new soft compounds, looking to improve on what is already a spectacular time on the board with a 103.985. So the Alpine, it will be an interesting one on his side. You also obviously have Flatbread and Sammy Renz, who have already retired from the session with no time on the board, so they will end up 17th and 18th for the session. Right, let's go on board with Nepatul. Sorry, not Nepatul. With Nano, currently on his fast lap, just made it through the first corner. DRS fully open, allowing for that maximum amount of aerodynamics as you go up the hill. 400s up on his time as he gets decent cornering through there. 180 degrees in turning rotation before it locks up and allows you to get the maximum out of it. Continuing on, pedal to metal, flat to the floor with over 11,000 RPM in with those V6 hybrid engines. Continues down, braking only 2 gear shifts and then allowing himself to flow through. Going into the next corner, once again just braking down 1 or 2 downshifts before once again continuing back up through the gears, through the corners. Does good there. Just wanted to be a bit more patient with that one because it can be a tricky one for drivers, but Nano has hit it right on the mark, and it's going to be interesting where AlphaTauri can hit it, and unfortunately it's going to be nowhere. Invalidated on the final straight before going on to the final corner, and unfortunately 1.2 seconds up has seen him go nowhere. Stays with the 105.792, and that is all he can achieve. So moving on to different drivers, let's move on to PGS Cyril. Looks like he's currently on a lap time. Is it going to be good enough to improve, however, into the 104s? It's a 104.503, goes up to P2, but still a significant 5/10 slower than what Wizzy Boy is.
Yeah, I mean, Zero has done a good lap there, but yeah, if he wants to close up, he has to improve a lot more. Like, he's pretty close, only 5/10s, as you said. But yeah, just has to improve if he wants to get forward.
Yeah, well, it never stops here in House of Racing, so on to the next driver. You also have two McLarens right behind the Alfa Romeo. It looks like Sam Ross has actually backed out of it, though. Brand new soft compounds. Looks like he was going to go for a run and then just backed out of it at the very end. So we may as well move on to the next couple of drivers, which would be Kookaburra and Zlippy. Kookaburra is ahead of him at the moment. Currently sees himself in P17 with no time on the board. 45.438 in the second sector. Used up as much of that curb as he possibly can to maximize the time before continuing on in 8th gear. Pedal to the metal, flat to the floor before just tapping on the brakes there. Does lose the rear a little bit too much oversteer. Bit of a snap, but overall keeps it all together. And the laps are 104.970, moves up to P9. I'm sure the McLarens will be happy with that for the time being. Let's move on to Zlippy now. 45.391, continuing on once again in a similar area where his teammate was just moments ago. Austria is fast, it's quick, it's competitive, and you need to drive like that if you want to get the most out of it. And unfortunately, some people can drive right over the limits, just like Zlippy. Over track limits, and it's going to be no improvement on his behalf. So Nikolai across the line at P5. The AlphaTauri manages a 104.528. And if you actually have a look at the gaps from P6 down to P2, the gaps are not significant at all. You have a 4.552, a 4.528, a 4.525, a 4.503. It's incredibly close at the moment.
Yeah, well, yes, indeed. They're all within 5/10 between the top 7 or so, yeah. Kind of reminds me of the PSGL. Oh, Sir Nikolai has run wide.
Interesting.
Just out of the turn 3, I believe, or turn 4. Yeah, he has run wide and he has went off track. But I don't think he was on a fast lap because he's almost out of fuel.
Yeah, I mean, it could have counted as a fast lap, but it's probably just like, you know, like you said, doesn't have enough fuel in the tank to actually set down a time on the board and finish it off. Either way, last Nigerian did invalidate his lap time, but with 7 minutes on the clock, there's still plenty of time for every driver to have the opportunity to actually go faster than the rest. Marinov with a 104.352. The Red Bull manages to get up to P2. Same with Chesney Reese with the 104.387. Once again, very close margins here at Austria. I expected that, apart from Wizzy Boy, who's still managed to get into the 103s and should really be an F1, but he can't make the time, so looking to try and become an F2 champion. But either way, last Nigerian continuing on to the straight. This Ferrari driver clearly looking to try and make the maximum on it this time round, not trying to go over track limits like he did one lap before. Scuderia now out of the next corner. Does well like to call that the Red Bull crash corner for the simple reason that we've had so many Red Bulls. You have Albon, Perez twice, Albon twice, and it pretty much just is an area where they just get hit out of the race or out of contention for anything. Either way, last Nigerian continuing through the track onto the final corner, this time avoiding any actual warning of track limits, gets a 105.583, sets P14 on the board, and that is where he stands for the time being. What about Nano? He's about to come across the line, 1/10 up on the time, 104.504, goes P6, just ahead of his teammate of Sir Nikolai. Solid time from the AlphaTauri.
I'm just looking on board with Cyril, who's currently on P5. He's approaching the final corner to set lap time.
I don't know, Flapper.
I think he might. What was that?
I was just talking to the Twitch chat. I was saying, like, because Flatbread was asking, does Kookaburra know, not have a quali ban? I'm like, I don't know. But, yeah, sorry for interrupting.
That's alright. But, yeah, I don't think Sarah has approved, though.
Nah.
Yeah.
Silence falls on a racing track, and for the simple reason that literally nothing is happening in qualifying at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. It is a bit of a stalemate. Currently yellow flag in the third sector. The Ferrari of last Nigerian going slow, but eventually moving out of the way. 4 minutes 48 is on the clock, so expect new drivers to come on to new compounds very, very soon, or at least coming out onto outlaps now. Expect everyone to be rather in the pit lane or in that situation, or coming into the pit lane now before eventually switching over. It's going to be a quick one. It should be a competitive one, and we should see gaps decrease. At the moment, the gap between Wave Dre and Wizzy Boy is now down to 0.2 of a second. Actually, a tenth and a half. So, Wizzy Boy might actually need to find some pace now and find some actual competitiveness, because maybe that P1 that he's had since the start of this session is going to be under attack now. And either way, lots of drivers on an out lap now. A lot of people coming out of the pit lane, rather coming into the pit lane as well. Let's go on board with Nepital in the Williams. He's invalidated on his first run. Now continuing on to this second, and he will be the first person on a fast lap apart from Wizzy Boy, who's just ahead. So we'll actually come back to the Williams just later, but for now let's go on board with the Alpine. So Wizzy Boy going up to turn 3, because turn 2's kind of has a king for the straight, and he's already backed out of it, going left and right and saving on ERS. He knows he's not going to improve, so there's no point. So going back to Nepital. Looks like he's also backed out of it, but no, just depends on the camera type. DRS now fully active for the Williams as he continues down in elevation, going into Red Bull Crash Corner. Does well on the hairpin there before continuing on downwards and then straightening out before going on the 50-meter mark, braking down to 6th gear, rotating through. The handling there does a fantastic job, and the Williams just trying to get the maximum out of it for the time being, over one curb, then the next, then it's straight pedal to the metal, flat to the floor, continuing on into the next couple of corners. Needs to avoid that white line, and well and truly does avoid the white line, because obviously Austria is quite strict with track limits. Manages a 105.118, and Nepital goes P12. Continuing back up, what is Wave Dre doing? Currently invalidated on his time. He will get an opportunity to set another time, so we'll have to wait and see how he goes. His teammate Marinov has also invalidated on his run. Everyone is pushing 110% to really get the maximum out of these lap times. What about PGS Cyril? He's currently on an out lap. Nano has now gone back to back because obviously invalidated on his first run. So what can the AlphaTauri do? Trying his absolute best not to go over the white line. Well, continuing on to the first main straight here, DRS active, trying to get the maximum out of it. You can get 13 more kilometers per hour out of it. 1/10 down on his time. The AlphaTauri has plenty of areas to gain that back. Either way, DRS is active. He is actually getting a small amount of slipstream from the car right up ahead. Looks like the Alfa Romeo is going to get out of the way, but to the advantage of Nano. Continuing down in elevation, just passing Red Bull Crash Corner, the AlphaTauri now continues, hitting one curb, braking down to 6th gear before continuing on, tapping on the inside curb and allowing the car to lift through onto the outside line and allowing for maximum time to be gained. Currently a 10th down, but can he see any improvement on where he currently stands in P8? Can he go any higher than where he currently stands, or is this all that is achievable? And yes, it is. Nano comes back into the pit lane with what is pretty much less than 2 minutes remaining, and that is it for the AlphaTauri. Unfortunately, Nano couldn't find the pace necessary.
And I was just looking at the check-in, and yes, Kookaburra has a quality ban apparently.
Interesting.
Well, and he has started at that time, so all he has to do is to disqualify and just disqualify from the session, and yeah, that's what I'm reading from the chat.
Right, yeah. So, sorry, pardon me. So yeah, Kookaburra does have a qualifying ban against his name, and unfortunately the McLaren has pretty much broken his own rule and own, well, I guess, guideline he has to follow because of the fact that the FIA has punished that against him, and he's broken it. He currently sees him to P12 with a time on the board. When he has a qualifying ban, he's not allowed to have a time on the board. He's supposed to start last, or at least ahead of where other people have retired. So yes, unfortunate position for Kookaburra. Anyway, let's go on board with Chesney, 2/10 up on his time, trying to get the maximum out of this. The Aston Martin will see the checkered timing line with only P4 on the board. That is all the Aston Martin can achieve on what will most likely be his final run here at the moment. Astronomy says, very happy about my recovery. Yeah, well, Darwizzy up to P3. The Haas did well with a 104.256. Wave Dre has come back into the pit lane. He clearly can't find any more time. Wizzy Boy currently on provisional pole. He might be able to get himself up to pole. We'll have to wait and see. Driller Bonds in the Ferrari could only manage a 4 flat and just a 10th It is a 0.00.101. That is the gap between P1 and P2 for the time being. Chesney's already 2-lap old degraded tyres. Kookaburra is on new fresh compounds. He's 3/10 up on his time, 104.509 when he does have a qualifying ban against his name, so that will be interesting how that plays into hand. But from what we've seen with Chesney already coming back into the pit lane, with Chesney Reese having no opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, here for the Austrian Grand Prix, here for qualifying, it is Wizzy Boy in the Alpine on pole position with a 103.985, and what a lap time it was. He only set one fast lap time, and then from there made mistakes and unfortunate track limit issues. But yeah, Wizzy Boy on pole position, done and confirmed as everyone now crosses the line or comes back into the pit lane, and that is everyone across the line. It is Wizzy Boy back on pole once again. He did it once in Imola, he's done it again in Austria. Fantastic job.
Yes, indeed, amazing job from Wizzy Boy. The only driver to set into 103s. But yeah, a job well done from Wizzy Boy, honestly, and good job from Driller, honestly.
Yeah.
Who is debuted for 3 races now, which is amazing.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Really, it's a really good lap time from Wizzy Boy, a 103.985. You know, he's once again proven what he can do, and you'd think he'd actually be good enough for F1, but then you look at the F1 times, you look at how competitive Formula 1 actually is, and you realize this is actually a bit slow for what is capable. Anyway, Wizzy Boy with a 103.985, I'm sure he'll be happy with that as he takes pole by a 101 of a gap, 1/10 pretty much exactly, and P3 being Wave Dre and the Red Bull with a 104.174. Either way, your front row, second row, third row, your entire grid now set up on a platter for you, ladies and gentlemen, to watch 36 laps of action ahead of us. Here for the Austrian Grand Prix, here for the Red Bull Ring, here for Formula 2 for round 3. This should be an interesting one.
Yes, indeed.
Flatbread says Wizzy Boy would be F1, he just can't make days. Yeah, I know, Flatbread, but it's just interesting because even with a 103.9, he'd be in the midfield in F1, which means that he is competitive enough for F1, but it's just interesting how much more competitive F1 actually is. Anyway, enough talking, because it's not how competitive F1 is, it's how competitive these drivers can be here in Formula 2 at the highest level of racing you can possibly get at. Formula 1. Strategy, driving, pure pace, all of it comes into the factor. Managing your tyres, managing your fuel, track limits, especially at a place like Austria, all comes into consideration. With no formation lap, we wait for the 5 red lights to show, with the fans all in a celebration, all in a haze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. The lights go out, and it's pedal to the metal for the Austrian Grand Prix here at the Red Bull Ring. It's a terrible getaway by Wizzy Boy. Wave Dre's already on the outside line, looking for the opportunity to try and make a move on the Alpine. Can't seem to get it done. Wizzy already down to P4. He's made contact with the Red Bull of Wave Dre. Chesney's going to take the opportunity in the Aston Martin to get up to P3. Fantastic move by the Aston Martin, taking advantage of a weak Red Bull. Either way, Driller Bonds down to P8, by the way. A man who started in P2 got a worst getaway of his life, now down to P9. He's down multiple positions, couldn't get it together, and contact at the back of the field has seen a big spread in the way it's looking. 4 wide going into Red Bull crash corner. Are we about to see a crash in another department? Doesn't look like it, but lots of contact being made between a couple of drivers. Sammy Renz and Nepatul all making contact at the moment, as overtaking is absolutely necessary, especially at a place like Austria, especially at the start of this Grand Prix. Let's continue back up the field. You can see Wizzy Boy 0.3 of a second ahead of Wave Dre for the time being. The Red Bull will need to make the absolute most of this if he wants to see himself come out on top. Either way, it is Wizzy Boy back out on top for the time being anyway. For a man who lost position at the very beginning, the Alpine has found his way to scroll back into P1. But for how much longer? Because with only 0.4 of a second and Wave Dre all over the back of the gearbox of the Alpine, it's going to be very interesting how long it will actually take before DRS obviously being active for the Red Bull to make a move, and it doesn't look like we're going to have to wait that long. The Alpine runs wide, the Red Bull's going to take the opportunity to make the move done. So Wave Dre's up to P1 with the 1/10 gap, and Darwizzy's also going to take the opportunity to potentially make a move. He's going to play it safe, however, not send it down the inside, just touching very, very lightly with the Alpine's rear car, just touching the rear wing there. PGS Cyril is also going wheel to wheel with the Alfa Romeo of Chesney Reese and Chesney in the Aston Martin, but both Chesney battling away going into turn 7 if I'm not wrong. Continuing on, more contact between the two side pods, but it is Chesney Reese in the Alfa Romeo who stays ahead of the Aston Martin of Chesney. Just couldn't get it done, so P6 is still secure for the Alfa Romeo for the time being. And Wave Dre obviously getting past Wizzy Boy going into turn 3 has still managed to stay ahead, and both kicking out. Wizzy Boy has lost the rear of the car, and that is front wing damage. He is able to keep going, but that is significant damage. That will most likely have to be back into the pit lane, and his teammate Matty Rambo will now come ahead of him, at least. Well, yeah, of course, have a look how deep Wizzy Boy has to run. That is absolute horror show for Alpine to go from P1 pole position down to P12. That's 11 positions lost.
Yeah, and I saw what happened exactly to Wizzy Boy. He literally, like, I think he cutted the curve a bit there on turn 1, and then he just straight into the wall. And yeah, that's really unfortunate for Wizzy Boy, but yeah, I hope he can like charge back and make a good comeback.
Oh, AlphaTauri spun, and it's Sir Nikolai making contact with the Haas of Flatbread. Both drivers just seeming to get too close to each other. You can see Flatbread still going off the track, and Nepatul has also seemed to make a mistake. No, it was Wizzy Boy. Wizzy Boy, yeah. And so Wizzy Boy Cyril, last Nigerian's gone into the gravel making contact going into the final corner. Sir Nikolai also made a mistake. So that's what, 4 drivers all making a mistake there, and last Nigerian just trying to make up for any incident that he did unfortunately be ahead of. But either way, as you can see by the big bright yellow text, ladies and gentlemen, safety car is deployed.
Oh, I just noticed, yeah. I wonder what that would be for.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was multiple incidents. You had Sir Nikolai and the Haas of Flatbread making contact with each other, so there could have been front wing damage there. You had last Nigerian, unfortunately, brake too late, lock up and hit the barrier going into the final corner. You had Nepatul, sorry, not Nepatul, you had Cyril at P14 at the moment, but he made a mistake at some point. I'm pretty sure he had a spin, and Wizzy Boy also had a spin, and unfortunately had to come into the pit lane as well. So I think it had to do with a mixture of cars stopping on track and also just overall just debris on track as well. Either way, safety car is deployed. Wave Dre is currently seeing himself in P1, at least for the time being. All drivers are on mediums apart from the bottom row. Obviously you have Wizzy Boy, Nikolai, who are on brand new hard compounds. Nepals is only on 3-lap old hard compounds, with last Nigerian on 3-lap old soft compounds. More people coming into the pit lane. Speaking of last Nigerian on those soft compounds, he's probably going to switch them out for hards, and it's probably the best opportunity. You're already in a bad position, so it's probably best to do it under safety car conditions anyway. All the drivers following what is a V8 bi-turbo GT Black Series. The safety car obviously being a Mercedes AMG, just looking to try and allow the cars to be led on, keep the tyres warm, but allow for safety at its highest priority. Either way, all the gaps will fall down to a very significant amount. And obviously this will also benefit people who did come into the pit lane. They'll be on newer tyres so they can undercut some of the lower midfield, but also just overall just be on a new set of tyres, pretty much reset.
Well, I mean, after what I've seen, like a couple of instances, Wheezy Boy, well, unfortunately, is like in B17. That's pretty unfortunate for Wheezy Boy. Of what I've seen, he had a terrible start. He spun it in lap 3, I believe, and then he just made contact with the I think the Williams of Cyril or Sir Nikolai, but yeah, it is pretty unfortunate, but hopefully Wheezy Boy can make a comeback, as we see him in a lot of races like last season Bahrain, where he had a good comeback from last place all the way to the top of the podium. Can we see that maybe happening again in Austria for season 4? I mean, hopefully. Wheezy Boy might have some.
It's actually a bit poetic in a way, K1, because if we go back to last season in Bahrain, we were actually teammates driving for Haas.
Yeah.
Nostalgia hitting us, but those times unfortunately all come to an end, and in my case it ended quite quickly because with internet issues being at a high, and with F123 obviously at that point being a fresh game, it pretty much didn't allow me to drive what I need to do. Anyway, as the FIA and the stewards have said, it is safety car coming in this lap, with Wavedre in the Red Bull, with the Haas of Darwizi in P2, with Marinov, the teammate to Wavedre in P3. It's a Red Bull sandwich squeezing out the Haas of Darwizi. It's going to be interesting how this all plays out, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone 5-lap old mediums or hard compounds, apart from the couple of people who have come into the pit lane. We wait patiently for the Red Bull to go, and he has gone up to 3rd now. And yes, he is 4th, 5th, and now he is off. Flat to the 4, pedal to the metal, Jesus Christ. But it's been a terrible getaway. Haas is already looking to try and sneak on the inside. Can't seem to do it, however, so now he's going to wait for this now back straight, as you could call it. Just looking to use all that slipstream, just blips of ERS, trying to make the maximum of it. Looks like he is on the outside line. Is he going to be able to go around the outside to make the move on the Red Bull? He obviously has to go deep, but it's going to pay off on the exit of grip. Just looks like because of the throttle input, Wavedre is going to stay ahead, at least for the time being. Darwizi is still inside of a 10th. Looks like he's going to send it down the inside. Yes, he does, using a lot of that curb there, and obviously being Red Bull crash corner, you'd expect the Red Bull to crash there, and a lot of contact being made between Wavedre and Darwizi. But going into the next corner, it is the Haas of Darwizi who takes the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix here at the Red Bull Ring, and the 2 Red Bulls, whose obviously hometown is here at the Red Bull Ring, sees himself down in P2 and P3, with the Haas, the American team, up on the advantage. And the Austrian fans, you can hear them booing away. You can see the negativity that they clearly have on their faces, but it does not discredit Darwizi. It does not discredit the Haas Formula 1 team. It only keeps them going, in a yellow flag deployed. Looks to be Cyril, who's reversing into the pit lane. And unfortunately, now getting going once again. The Williams is going slow. Last Nigerian coming back into the pit lane with a front wing damage. Either way, that is going to be a very significant time loss for the Williams. Once again, going back up to the top, you can see Darwizi still leading the Grand Prix. You go.
Sorry to interrupt, but at the track map, I clearly saw Cyril resetting the track. That will look into the stewards.
No.
For sure.
K1.
What?
K1. I hate to break it to you, but before I do, Chesney going will to will with the Red Bull of Marinov and making a very successful move. What a perfect, placement, braking, it all paid off with a very decent rotation, planting it perfectly in the Aston Martin up into the podium positions. But I hate to break it to you, K1, but I literally saw Cyril reverse into the pit lane, so it kind of forcefully made him reset.
Okay.
Yes. So he
I was
didn't.
in a battle.
Yeah. Either way,
Sorry,
speaking of this battle for the podium positions, Marinov in the Red Bull just looking to try and get by. And you know what? Chesney Reese is going to do the same, trying to get past Chesney in the Aston Martin. Can Chesney in the Aston Martin get past Chesney Reese in the Alfa Romeo? Well, the two Chesneys are going to make contact, and Chesney in the Aston Martin falls down multiple positions, down to P14. More contact being made in sector 1, 2, and 3. Cyril has now retired with P17. Unfortunately, will become P18 with Last Nigerian eventually coming out. But yeah, that's going to be significant damage, and its safety car once again deployed here in Austria, and the Red Bull ring falls silent once again, as it's not been many laps as we went under racing. But yeah, once again, slow moving, slow paced, and this time we'll probably see more drivers coming into the pit lane. Or maybe not, because it is still 8-lap mediums, and these, especially these compounds, especially here at a place like Austria, they will last much longer than something like a compound at Monaco. Either way, Chesney Reese coming into the pit lane off those 9-lap-old medium compounds. Followed behind is Nano. Same with Driller Bonds, at least I thought so, but it's Chesney Reese in the Alfa Romeo who will join them. Try and get an idea of what pit stops they're getting. A bit slow from the Alfa Romeo pit crew. What about Alpha Tauri? Just looks to be as slow as the Alfa Romeo. And the Aston Martin of Sammy Rentz will take this opportunity to go up to P12. Solid gains for the debuting reserve driver. Also have Zlippy in the McLaren P15 as he comes out of the pit lane. Same with Chesney and Last Nigerian in the Ferrari, just 54 seconds off the pace compared to everyone else, with a penalty against his name as well. So, K1, how's it going?
I saw for a second that Cyril might have restarted strike, but as you clearly said, but no, I thought he was strike, but nope.
And at this point, it wouldn't really matter. I mean, unless it's a quali or race ban, he's now DNF from the race session. So if it's any type of time penalty against this Grand Prix, it won't really matter. So yeah, either way, Cyril P18, that is where he'll finish. And he's, or as you can see in the very near distance, you can see him taking off his helmet in anger and anguish. Clearly not happy with the result of P18, but it is where Cyril sees himself finish. Either way, with 17 drivers remaining here on the grid, and with Last Nigerian pretty much taking this opportunity to cut down time from the safety car traffic. Pilata says JM goated. I do not know if you... I don't know who JM is, but if you're talking about me, because my name is JPM13, then appreciated, mate. Anyway, there's not much to talk about. This is the issue about safety cars. Big action, and then small results pretty much out of it. But yeah, safety car on lap 11 of 36. It is Darwizzi in P1, with Dre and Marinov driving for Red Bull in P2 and P3 here at the Red Bull Ring. Kookaburra P4, he had a qualifying ban, but still competed in qualifying. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out ban-wise, because it will be, or at least a very significant penalty against his name, once the FIA do make their decisions. P5 is Sam Ross in the Alfa Romeo. P6 is Aero Wizzy Boy in the Alpine. P7 is Sir Nikolai in the Alpha Tauri. P8 is Matty Rambo in the Alpine. P9 is Flatbread in the Haas. P10 is the Williams of Nepatul. P11 is Driller Bonds in the Ferrari. P12 is the Aston Martin of Semi Renz. P13 is Nano in the Alpha Tauri. P14 is the McLaren of Zlippy. P15 is Chesney in the Aston Martin. P16 is Chesney Riz in the Alfa Romeo. And to finish off what is remaining of the grid is P17 of Last Nigerian in the Scuderia Ferrari. Burn It Down said I dropped to last T1 already. I have no idea what that means, but good for you, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, Flatbread says 9 overtakes made, 9 to go. And you know what? That is good for you, Flatbread. Fantastic job from the Haas driver at the moment. Obviously, just, you know, while we're here, while we're under safety car conditions, we need to find conversation. Darwizzi 3 positions higher than where he started. Have a look at this. Kookaburra and Sam Ross, 7 positions than where they started. 4 positions for Marinov, 1 position higher for Wave Dre. Oh, it's Kookaburra. Okay. Well, I didn't know, so there you go, burn it down. Anyway, Wizzy Boy, unfortunately, to be fair, he's made up positions back, to be fair, but the Alpine, who started on pole position, currently only sees himself in P6, and his race pace is lackluster, but it's going to be interesting how his race pace is, especially on what will be not new tyres, but newish tyres, because he boxed the last safety car. Anyway, Flatbread, like he said, 9 positions up from where he started, many people down, 10 positions lower is Chesney, but this isn't about how positions change. That can come when green flags raise. Where we are right now is safety car coming into the pit lane. And this time, instead of a Red Bull, it's a Haas who will lead us away in 4th gear, revving at a stable 6,500 RPM. The twin turbos scream as he goes up the gears, going into the final corner, and the Haas is away, and what a getaway. This time not making any mistakes across the line, and it's green flag running once again here at the Red Bull Ring, and what a getaway from Darwizzy, already 6 tenths ahead of Wave Dre in P2. Marinov down to 4 tenths as he just can't seem to catch his teammate, but using the slipstream and ERS, it could give him a bigger advantage. Same for Wave Dre, he's using that slipstream and ERS towards him, and it seems to be working. Now down to 3 tenths, but running way too wide. This allows a perfect getaway for the Haas of Darwizzy, as it's now up to 7 tenths of a second. Fantastic manoeuvring. Have a look at Nepatul. The Williams is in the gravel, and that seems to be a big significant issue there. Yellow flags once the... Oh! Ferrari of last Nigerians hit the barrier. The teammate to Driller Bonds in the same area where, what was it, Chesney hit the barrier. Now the Ferrari hits the barrier, and he's now reset to track, but that should be legal because there's no drivers around him. Has to do it. No real consequences for that. The Red Bull of Marinov actually has made a mistake. He's now down to P13, and he was in P3. He's down 10 positions, and what a comeback we're seeing from Wizzy Boy. The Alpine now up to P4. Jesus, I am struggling to speak, but have a look at this. You know what I'm not going to struggle to speak with is the will-to-will action between Alfa Romeo and Alpha Tauri of Sir Nikolai and Sam Ross going around the outside. Sam Ross has made the move stick and dusted, licked the stamp and sent it all the way up to P5, while Sir Nikolai is down to P6. What about Nepatul? Well and truly up to P14, as you can see, Chesney, Driller Bonds, and Last Nigerian for what would most likely be the 4th, 5th time, now picking up a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, has now retired from the session as well. Either way at the moment, what a comeback from Wizzy Boy, to be fair, from being on pole, losing all those positions, being what, P12, P13, to come back, now he's in P4, seeking and getting all the maneuvers and moves done from where there are mistakes and consequences being made. So the Alpine is really making the most of it, and it looks like he's about to make the most of it once again. 1/10 is the gap between him and Kookaburra in the Alpine against McLaren. It's been a battle that's lasted all since the new regulations kicked in. Alpine versus McLaren, but unfortunately the Alpine may be out of this fight. A 3-second time penalty against his name, but we'll see how this plays out as DRS is now enabled on these cars, and a bit of a kick of oversteer there from the Alpine, but this should be quite beneficial for him. 1/10 of a gap. Is he going to send it going into turn 3? The Alpine plays it safe, just takes his time, and the McLaren's actually going to send it. Unfortunately, the Alpine's not going to see any benefit from it. Wave Dre is seen losing all that time out from it, and Kookaburra up to P2. The McLaren gets it done and dusted. And have a look at this will-to-will contact being made between the McLaren and Red Bull of Kookaburra and Wave Dre. Wave Dre ends up ahead going into P2, but Kookaburra really made that look like a struggle. And Wizzy Boy is still all over the back of the McLaren of Kookaburra. It's really just a matter of time before Wizzy Boy can plant what he needs to do to get past him. Looks like he's going to get all the momentum he really needs at this current time. Can he do it? Not at this current time. Yes, he can. Potentially looking for the inside line. Can't get it done, though. It is just yes, no, but with Wizzy Boy and Kookaburra at the moment. Once you have an opportunity, then the door is shut. Now you don't have an opportunity. It is really just about picking and choosing when you possibly can. And Wizzy Boy got a perfect exit, hitting that throttle at the perfect time, smoothly applying it, and up to P3 with no problems at all, plus the DRS that comes along with it. But contact made with Wave Dre, and he'll fall down to P4, and even further if he can't get going. He has got going, so Nikolai might be on the attack, but Wizzy Boy making contact with the Red Bull, costing him what is one position now, or two positions actually. Kookaburra is up to P2 as Wizzy Boy struggled to actually keep the McLaren behind, but that is now podium positions, and Wave Dre's not done. The Red Bull has come back seeking revenge for what was contact between him and the Alpine. 16 of 36 laps remaining. We still have 20 laps of action, ladies and gentlemen. Not 5, not 10, not 15, but 20. Plenty of laps for things still to change and switch around for the time being. Anything you can add on, K1?
Well, I mean, not really. Apart from what happened between Kookaburra and Wizzy or Wave. I mean, they have like made a huge contact and lost a bit of time, but yeah, that's all I could add. But, yeah.
Yep, fair enough. But Matty Rambo in P9, I'm sure he's happy with being able to score some points. That was something.
That was pretty close. Cernicla was just about to make a double move. It's like he's trying to act like a torpedo or something.
Yeah, well, you know who is actually acting like a torpedo but made it a successful torpedo was Wizzy Boy, who's now up to P3 successfully, smoothly, like a smooth operator. And Wizzy Boy up to P3 for the time being. I'm sure he'll be very much excited to score his first ever win here in Formula 2. And, actually, yeah, just overall. He's never well, actually, no, that's not true. He has raced in F2, but then promoted to F1. So it wouldn't be his first ever win in F2, but it would be his first win of Season 4. But he has to get past two very exceptional drivers. One named Kookaburra and one named Wizzy. But you have to consider something. Wizzy Boy boxed on the hard compounds when it came to the first safety car, so he's actually on an undercut strategy. It also helps because Wizzy Boy's about to make the move on Kookaburra, taking the inside line, sends it as far down as he possibly can, making sure to leave room for the McLaren. The McLaren just gets all iffy on the exit though, just not being patient enough on the throttle, and it's the Alpine well and truly up to P2 plus DRS, allowing himself to pull away as it's now a 2-second gap to McLaren behind. Fantastic driving as Wizzy Boy now settles into a groove in P2 as he smashes through what is the wind tunnel of aerodynamics. Anyway, Wizzy Boy currently has a gap of 1.8 seconds, but needs to make a gap of 3 seconds if he wants to win this Grand Prix. Wizzy safe and sounded where he currently is, but for how much longer, because the Haas is coming into the pit lane, and with Wizzy Boy on the hard compounds, he's going to stay out. And so now things get interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because Kookaburra also comes into the pit lane. Looks like Nano's going to stay out, so now it's an Alpine P1 and an AlphaTauri 2-3. Very interesting. And you can see, just with the drivers coming into the pit lane, how close it really is between these guys.
Yeah, and I've just seen Kookaburra has just gone to 5 seconds after he was spinning in the pit lane, which is pretty. I don't know what to say. But,
I don't know, mate.
Kookaburra has a 5-second time penalty for speeding on the pit lane, and it would be pretty unfortunate if he wants to finish in the top 5, but I don't know if that's going to be happening in this race.
Yeah, you're right. Either way, Wizzy Boy currently in P1, like I said, has made them... Actually, wait. Oh yeah, of course, because of... I was confused for half a second, but snap back to reality. It's because Wizzy came into the pit lane, so obviously Wizzy Boy's now taking the lead of the Grand Prix. 2.5 seconds is the gap between him and Nano, currently in P2. If he can extend it to 3 seconds of a gap, then he'll be able to win this Grand Prix with 16 laps remaining. But can those hards last another 16 laps worth of racing? Because also consider the fact that Wizzy's on fresh new hard compounds, it's going to take a while, but he'll eventually catch the rest of the field, and then it's game over for the Alpine because that Haas will have so much grip, so much more temperature. It's just better pressure in the tires, better material for the hard compounds. It's just overall more grip, more pace. It's just going to be much better for Darwizzy in the long term. But for now, where we currently stand, Wizzy Boy is in P1. He is trying his absolute hardest. He is pushing to the limits of what is possible here in House of Racing, and he is doing a fantastic job. But the job is not done, not yet at least. Anyway, Chesney Reese P4 in the Alfa Romeo. Looks like he's getting a slipstream, but just has to back out of it. Going across the final couple of corners, but now the Alfa Romeo of Chesney Reese getting DRS, getting a slipstream, trying to make the absolute maximum of it, but will not be close enough to get it done. So the AlphaTauri with DRS against his teammate Sir Nikolai will be looking for a move. Does he send it? No, he doesn't. Takes his time with things. Very smart decision. I would take the same decision if I was in the hands of Sir Nikolai. Anyway, continuing back down the field, you can see Driller Bonds in the Ferrari performing a very decent move with Marinov Flatbread, because Marinov is behind Driller Bonds and Flatbread is ahead. And right now, Driller Bonds is going to make the move done and dusted, I'm pretty sure, and yes, he does in the Ferrari. Up to P11, fantastic move. A little bit of contact being made, but not too bad either way. The Ferrari up to P11, while Marinov down to P12. Flatbread has missed out massively as he's down to P13. Let's continue back up the field. You can see the Haas of Darwizzy, the teammate to Flatbread, also getting a slipstream on Wave Dre. Can he make a move as the gap now falls down to a tenth of a second? It's going to get close. We'll have to wait and see as we now move on to the final corner and where DRS does actually activate. Going on to here onto the pit straight. Can he get it done? He's going to have the inside line, but backs out of it because he knows how high that first corner actually is nowadays. Just has to be aware of that. Anyway, Sir Nikolai now up to P2 and P3, now being switched once again with Nano. Also looks to be that Chesney Reese could see a bit of an opportunity as such.
And we see two teammates battling against each other, Sir Nikolai and Nano. And Sir Nikolai has gained up a position up ahead his reserve teammate of Nano, and he's up to P2. Sir Nikolai.
I am so tired. Anyway, Nano currently in P3. The AlphaTauri looking to try and gain something against the AlphaTauri of Sir Nikolai. Looks like Sir Nikolai does lag out, so Nano is able to take this opportunity to go up to P2, but with a bit of a save there. Looks like Sir Nikolai is going to keep P2 for the time being, but for how much longer? Because he has no ERS on the rear of that car, and Nano has a very decent DRS plus slipstream. It's going to be interesting how he gets the maximum of this. Doesn't look like he'll be able to. There's no way of defending. There's no way of going against it. Chesney Reese will be able to follow it through here as well. Have a look at the Alfa Romeo. Taking the outside line, braking late, making sure to maximize it, then getting all that grip at the very end. It's going to be a double overtake against Sir Nikolai. And so now that's Nano up to P2 and Chesney Reese up to P3. And the podium positions from where it started was, what was it, Wizzy Boy and then, what, Wave Dre and then Marinov. The Red Bulls are now P7 and P15. And now the podium is Wizzy Boy, Nano and Chesney Reese. The Alpine, AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo duo indeed. All starting with A's. Anyway, Chesney Reese, 9/10 of a second off Chesney Reese, off Nano at the moment, but not close enough to make any move, and DRS is not going to be a big factor at the end of the day as well. Either way, have a look at Lippy actually. Have a look at the gaps at the moment. Currently see both McLarens of Piastri and Lando if it was real life, but it isn't. It's Lippy and Kookaburra, and looks like Kookaburra is going to take the opportunity to try and make the move. But he has to cut the first corner completely. Either way, these drivers also cut the side of the corner, I guess you could call it. But either way, Kookaburra giving the move back to Wave Dre anyway. I'm going to force you to speak, K1. This is just how it's going to work.
And we see Wave making a move up to Slippy, but Slippy is gonna have a good straight line speed to keep that position. But the wave gets goes past Slippy, and apparently Slippy has lost 2 positions from Kookaburra. But yeah, I think Darwizi was on absolute flyer. He's up to P5. He's doing a pretty decent job from him.
Yes, but the gap is still 6 seconds at the current time, so the Haas still has a lot of time to make up. And yes, he is cutting a lot of time out per lap, but it's lap 25 or 36, and we have 11 laps remaining. So if you really consider it at the grand scheme of things, Darwizi...
And we see...
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you were talking about. Very close racing. At the top, at the very front of the grid, really, Sir Nikolai and Chesney Reese really fighting in close quarters, but nothing actually coming to contention at the very end of it, and Sir Nikolai losing the rear there while the Alfa Romeo does pull away. But yeah, like I said, Darwizi has 11 laps to lose 4.9 seconds, because if he doesn't, he will not win this Grand Prix. He is, however, actually... well, yeah, I was going to say maybe not, but no, he is. He's on the pretty much the newest compound compared to anyone else, apart from Nepotul, who's on 3 lap old soft compounds. So,
I have just seen the yellow flag from Flatbread was lost in turn 2, I believe.
Right.
Or turn 3, you could say. And Jared was almost had and almost made contact, but luckily Flatbread goes away with it. But yeah, it could have been a safety car. Nearly Flatbread, I think, almost retired, but luckily it just kept it alive.
Yeah, interesting. Either way, Kookaburra in P7 at the time, but being just looking to try and get some DRS off the Red Bull of Wavedre. Going back up, Nano P4 against Sir Nikolai. The AlphaTauris are fighting quite hard against each other, and it's seen a position swap between the two drivers, meaning Sir Nikolai's up to P3, Chesney Reese is P2, and Wizzy Boy's still in P1. But have a look at that gap, by the way. For context, I know you probably weren't paying full attention. Darwizi, right, he was on 6-second flats at the start of the last lap. He was on 4 seconds by the end of the next. He cut 2 seconds in 1 lap. You know what he's done now? He's managed to make the move stick against the Red Bull of Wavedre. So now he's cut another 4 seconds worth of lap time out of the second lap. Or being on, well, not on those compounds specifically, but on the push, on the attack against other drivers. It's going to be very interesting how this does eventually play out. You have Chesney Reese, once again, P2 in the Alfa Romeo, but he's 10.2 seconds off Wizzy Boy. And because Wizzy Boy has that penalty, if by any chance Darwizi can't get past Chesney Riz, this gives a perfect opportunity with the Alpine for Wizzy Boy to win this Grand Prix. But nothing set in stone for the time being, so we'll have to wait and see how things do eventually come out. But yeah, for the time being, this is where everything stands.
And yeah, and I was just gonna say this, but I believe Nano was lost his part of his car, which I believe was his front wing. He has pitted, and he just made contact with Sir Nikolai, I believe, with his teammate, and yeah, that just brings Nano out of the points, unfortunately. But yeah, I clearly saw what happened there with my two own eyes. But yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, the Alfa Romeo of Chesney Reese now coming out onto the pit lane on new soft compounds, ladies and gentlemen. New oven-baked softs, freshly made for the Alfa Romeos, Italian style. Either way, P8 for the time being, but for how much longer is the real question, because now the fact that they're on new soft compounds, clearly fighting and pushing for fastest lap. You can see Driller Bonds on the medium compounds for the Scuderia Ferrari in P15 has also just taken the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Anyway, Flatbread. Oh! Flatbread! VSC deployed, and the Haas has made severe contact, the same as Zlippy. Debris scattered around the track. It looks to be a contact between Zlippy and Flatbread, and unfortunately, yellow surrounds the track as VSC is now deployed, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I didn't have a clear look at what happened there, but...
So, from what I've
Yeah.
seen, Zlippy made contact with the Haas of Flatbread, or maybe the other way around, and Zlippy obviously lost his front wing, so clearly went into the barrier, and then I guess rebounded off the barrier, so he had a broken front wing, while the Haas of Flatbread just has front wing damage and was parked in the barrier. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, that is pretty unfortunate for Flatbread.
Oh, and DRS once again enabled as green flag once again gets going. Obviously, VSCs aren't as long as safety cars, and looks like Wave Dre's actually going to get the jump against the Haas of Darwizier, at least for the time being. We'll have to see the actual pace and just pure grip that these cars actually have when it comes to newer and older compounds. What I can say is because Darwizi is actually on 10 lap old compounds compared to Wave Dre's 11 lap old compounds, Darwizi technically has better compounds, but it really depends on how you drive the car, how efficiently you drive the car, and how you can maximize pace at the same time. Either way, Wizzy Boy's really been carrying around this Williams Nepital blue flag, or maybe Cyril, and it's an AI, however it is. It's a Williams blue flag, and Wizzy Boy is driving alongside it. But right now it's looking almost quite easy for Wizzy Boy at the moment. He's started on pole, he made the mistakes, he came back to positions, and this is where he is at the moment. P1, where we've seen him so many times before, or we may see him once again.
Yeah, what a great comeback Wizzy Boy has been making throughout this race. It has been a pretty, what has been a kind of disastrous race from Wizzy Boy at the start of the race, midway through the race, and then with only 4 or 5 laps, laps left in this race, he's gonna finish it home in P1.
Well, at least for the time being. Commentator's curse, K1. Commentator's curse. It does exist, but
Okay.
for the time being, right, with a 12.3 second gap, Darwizzy sees himself in P2, while Wizzy Boy sees himself in P1. The two Wizzies at the moment see themselves now in P1 and P3 as Sir Nikolai takes the opportunity to get past the Haas of Darwizzy, and this actually benefits the Red Bull of Wave Dre as he's now up to P2, so Nikolai switches positions with Wave Dre, but maybe this is more of like a blockage type of thing, because Sir Nikolai can't seem to get past Wave Dre or Kookaburra, as now Kookaburra sneaks into the equation, or Darwizzy. It's been very interesting, and it's actually just going to make it harder for Darwizzy to make it through the pack, especially. I've got a PlayStation Plus notification saying I'll get 60% off apparently this weekend, and Flatbread disqualified from this session. Interesting. So Flatbread has... You go.
Sorry, he was disqualified because he went to the wrong way apparently.
Oh, interesting. Either way, however that's played out, Flatbread has a black flag against his name and has to retire from the session. Flatbread says this game is a joke in the Twitch chat, so interesting how that plays out. Anyway, let's focus on the gap, ladies and gentlemen, because have a look at where Darwizzy is. He is stuck in traffic. He is stuck against other drivers he is trying to beat and who is trying, to stop him winning this Grand Prix. Then you have Wizzy Boy. 13.1 seconds is the current gap between him and the Alpine and Kookaburra in the McLaren. 2 positions lower than that is Darwizzy. Now, I don't know the exact link at the moment between Darwizzy and Wizzy Boy and their gaps in the championship, but what I do know is that these guys are clearly looking for the win. They clearly have the pace for the win. They clearly have the competitiveness for a win. So if Wizzy Boy wins this Grand Prix, it will be his first race win of Season 4. If Wizzy wins this, I'm pretty sure it will be the same. But it's going to be interesting how this will eventually turn out anyway.
And yeah, I was just looking for the standings for you, and apparently Darwizi is leading the championship by 7 points ahead of Sir Nikolai.
Yeah, and where is Wizzy Boy at the moment?
Wizzy Boy is currently P4 with only 17 points difference to P1, which is
interesting. Yeah.
Darwizi.
Yeah,
But
no big surprises.
Because Darwizi, who's making a move on Kookaburra and goes up to P3, but
no, but for how much?
Kookaburra still manages to stay ahead.
Wow. Great defending from the McLaren, and this is really only going to help out Wizzy Boy further. Wave Dre being on 15 lap old hard compounds and just not having the raw pace that Darwizi has is giving a perfect golden opportunity to the Alpine of Wizzy Boy to win this Grand Prix. Lap 34 of 36 is going to eventually become lap 35 of 36 once they cross the line, or maybe not. No, it isn't. It's 34 of 36, but yeah, the gaps are very differed, and the compounds are very differed too, but something stays the same, and that is the competitiveness. That is the racing itself. It is the will-to-will action, and Darwizi making a move on the McLaren of Kookaburra, and looks like finally move set in stone as the Haas finally gets it done. 12.245 is the current gap between Wave Dre and Wizzy Boy, but this also makes it harder for Darwizi, even if he's getting past Kookaburra, because now he has to also get rid of all that time with only 2 laps remaining, and also not get pressured by Kookaburra. I feel like I can't lie, I'm gonna quickly drop a truth bomb here. I feel like extremely tired. Alright, it is 4:08 in the morning. And I feel like I'm talking nonsense every like seriously though, like I lose track of what I'm saying every like second sentence. So I'm trying to stay on top of things, but it's a bit hard. Anyway, lap 35 of 36 is the penultimate lap of the Austrian Grand Prix here at the Red Bull Ring. We've seen it all. We've seen great fighting. We've seen great races. We've seen strategy. We've seen gaps. We've seen it all. And ladies and gentlemen, what a Grand Prix it really has been. Either way, Wizzy Boy being very patient, taking his time, taking as much time as he really needs, because that is all he really has. He has time. He doesn't need pace if he has time. He's 11.9 seconds up against Wave Dre, which would be 13 seconds up against Haas. So it's pretty much confirmed in the bag that the Alpine is going to get this done. It's going to be done and dusted in the hands of the French team. But around the final corner, we start lap 36 of 36, and you can see a bit of racing happening at the moment between the 2 Alpines of Matty Rambo and the Aston Martin of Sammy Renz. Can he get the move done? No, unfortunately, he cannot. Has to stay where he is for the time being, but I'm sure Sammy Renz will be well and truly biting at the nail to try and get that opportunity to get past his teammate. But with lap 36 of 36, we go to Wizzy Boy as he now finishes up turn 3. He has a 3-second time penalty against his name, but it will not affect him. You know why? Because Wave Dre is 11 and a half, but 12 seconds away from him. And behind that, Darwizi, who is your championship leader, is 12 seconds behind both of them. Because now the gap between Wave Dre and Wizzy is now 10 seconds. But with it being the final lap of the race, with it being clean, with having a perfect strategy, with having everything down to the wire, perfecto, and it is absolutely bellissimo for Wizzy Boy as he comes around the final corner. It is absolute domination by the Alpine, who finishes in P1 here at the Red Bull Ring. Bellissimo and perfecto by the Alpine. I know it is in French words, but it does not matter. It is P2 for Wave Dre, but it's going to be switched around for Darwizi for your championship leader as the Haas makes it up to P2. P4 is Chesney Reese in the Alfa Romeo. P5 is Kookaburra in the McLaren. P6 coming across the line will be Sam Ross in the Alfa Romeo. P7 is Nano in the Alfa Tauri. P8 is Matty Rambo in the Alpine, but will it actually be that? Yes, it will be. What about Chesney in the Aston Martin? Can he see any improvement on his current position because of penalties? Doesn't look like he will because he's got penalties of his own. It does look like he doesn't improve. What about Driller Bonds in the Ferrari? Currently sees himself in P11, or he'll finish in P11 with no real improvement. But yes, for the first time here in Season 4, ladies and gentlemen, absolute domination, absolute perfecto of a strategy. Everything came to everything came to perfection when it needed to be, and that sees Wizzy Boy on top once again here in the F2 division.
Well, amazing job from Wheezy Boy. I'm sure he's pretty happy of what he has done throughout the race. He has sort of pretty badly, as I said before, and then spinning it to halfway through the race. But amazing job from Wheezy Boy. It's top step of the podium. Raise the champagne. But yep, job well done from Wheezy Boy. And
Yeah.
GG's to Darweezy and Wave was made it to the podium.
Yeah, well, a P1 for, obviously, like you said, Wizzy Boy, the top step of the podium, and a P2 for Wave, or a P2 for Darweezy, and a P3 for Wave Dre. Overall, they've come a long way, and a long way to see a result like this. I'm sure they'll be happy with it. Chesney Reese will also be happy, I'm sure, with a P4. I'm sure disappointed he didn't get a podium, but can't get complaints if you're scoring very decent points. But a couple people disqualified. I'm pretty sure it was Flatbread. You also had 2 people who DNF'd from the race itself, which means did not finish. But congratulations to Wizzy Boy and the Alpine, who gets the job done. And yeah, that is win number 1 of the season for Wizzy Boy in the French team known as Alpine. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate all the support that you give me and K1 and every commentator in this division of racing. Sorry if it has been a bit of a slow one or a bit of a quiet one. Don't know if it's been the same on your side, K1, but it is 4:14 in the morning, and I am sleep deprived, and all I want to do is sleep. And you know what? That's what I'm gonna go do, because otherwise I will feel like absolute crap. But yeah, the effort we put on. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Adios, and goodbye.